Uh-huh. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you all today for a special event with a very special guest, Marie-Pierre Dillenseger, hosted by Huys Foundation. I will be presenting our very special guest in a moment. I would like to tell you all that tonight or this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are logging on from, we are launching a new series called the Hope Series. We all know that 2020 has been a tumultuous and a very painful year for all of humanity. It has been plagued by a global pandemic, which is ongoing. We're seeing general political turmoil, and for Armenians, also a devastating war, bringing with it pain, sorrow, grief, and a general sense of hopelessness. A part of Huys Foundation's response to 2020 is the Hope Series, which is a series of discussions with inspiring thinkers, such as Madame Marie-Pierre Dillenseger, aimed at renewing our hope and our trust towards the unknown future. Through this series, we hope to uncover new mindsets for living, for creating and working together, new modes of success and for change, and learning more about how we can do things probably differently and generally unraveling the good, the creative, and also inspiring hope. Briefly about Huys Foundation. Huys Foundation is a non-profit organization dedicated to making educational excellence more accessible to youth who are of Armenian heritage or otherwise are dedicated to preserving and furthering Armenian heritage. We do this through scholarships in part, which of course is not an end in itself. It is but one tool to empower our youth to learn, to experience, and to apply their knowledge and experience to solving real life problems. And we believe that if we are to build Armenia, if we are to revitalize our nation and also to serve humanity, then we must be led by a new vision for the future aimed towards change. I myself am humbled to be serving as the president of Huys Foundation. My name is Stepan Kazurtian, the moderator for tonight, which brings me to tonight's event titled Invisible Allies, a new understanding of time and energy. As mentioned at the top, we have a very special guest joining us. Her name is Marie-Pierre Dillenseger. Very many of you already know her, and those who don't have the opportunity to getting to know her. She has an amazing biography, which I will present in brief. Doesn't do
Maybe
justice.
you should just 2 lines, so we can get going.
Sure. So Marie-Pierre Dillenseger is a French-American expert, author, and speaker on Chinese timing and spatial strategies. Her expertise combines strong analytical and analogical skills, the understanding of business strategy, and an unyielding dedication to individual growth, personal empowerment, and life energy. Her specialties include optimal timing in various aspects of life and the uncovering of hidden loyalties or invisible allies, as we will explore today. She has identified time and space as powerful, cost-effective, yet neglected key factors to performance for change and success early on in her career. Yet it was a medical diagnosis of only 3 months to live in 1996 that led her to full-time study, evaluation, and practice of all aspects of Chinese personal and business assessment techniques. In pursuit of this purpose, she created Power Spaces in Paris in 1999. She's the author of La Voie de Feng Shui, and I apologize if I mispronounce. La Voie de Feng Shui, Oser s'accomplir en debout, as well as numerous articles. She is based in Massachusetts, the USA, and I am itching to give the floor to her. But before I do so, a few comments on housekeeping. We'll have an hour-long event. The first half hour will be a presentation by Marie-Pierre, followed by a half-hour Q&A session. The event is being interpreted live in Armenian, and I'll mention this part in Armenian in order to avoid defeating the purpose. Եթե ցանկանում եք լսել հայերեն, ներքևում կտեսնեք գլոբուսի նկար, խնդրեմ սեղմեք դրա վրա եւ սեղմեք Armenian հայերեն, որպեսզի լսեք թարգմանությունը, որը որ մեզ այսօր տրամադրում է մեր լավ ընկեր Ահեն. We also have live stream on Facebook. If you want to hear it in Armenian, you have to have the Zoom link to join. And of course, the questions can be presented via the Q&A box here at Zoom or on Facebook. Without further ado, Marie-Pierre, the floor is yours for your presentation and the request please do enlighten us. What is this new understanding of time and energy?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. And I have to say that from my point of view, I am with a very special audience. You know, I got up this morning with a great enthusiasm to be able to meet with you, and I'm already impatient for your questions, so that I'll have to wait for my own presentation before I can really interact with you. First of all, I want to state very clearly that I'm not here to convince. I'm here to share information. I'm here to inform. And although there is so much to say about the Chinese ancestral way to look at the world, and I immediately state that I am not implying that China today still practices some of the teaching or information that I'm going to share, because some of those have now been harnessed, passed by non-Chinese, by Westerners, and I'm one of them trying to bridge the Western way to look at the world. Here we're going to talk about time, and the Eastern way. So my goal is to open a little window to be able to present the way the Chinese tradition, still usable today, looked at time. But first, let's start by the way we, I would say Westerners, or, you know, I'm French, American, the way we have been taught to look at time. In the West, time is a number. 2021 follows 2020, there will be 2022. We don't give name to the am I still on video? I need a confirmation. Good. So we don't give name to time. Secondly, we look at time in a very linear way. Like I have my cord of my phone, time is a thread. It started a long time ago. It's going to continue until I don't know when. Third, time is not looked like a force. We know that to be at the right time, at the right place could give an advantage in a battle, but also in a meeting in terms of strategy. But in the West, what do we have to identify the right time? What do we have? So the bridge. In the Chinese way, first of all, time is not anonymous. Time has a name. It actually has two names, a first name and a last name. 2020, that very turbulent, we could say, destructive year, or year servicing destructive force, is called, don't laugh, I'm serious, the year of the metal rat. This is a metaphor. For Westerners, it means nothing. We laugh, you know, rat, what does it mean? 2021 is already called the year of the metal ox. What does it mean? But anyway, I'll explain. So in that culture, time has a name. The name is a metaphor that covers us an energy, some qualities. But before I go to those, I want to state that in the Eastern way, in the Chinese way to look at time, time is seen as cyclical. It is not a linear thread, because in the West, because time is infinite, we have this illusion, I'm provoking you already, but we have this view that every year is a new year, right? At our respective new years, we promise ourselves that this year we'll do differently. But in the Chinese way, because there's been, I have to say that, thousands of years of investment in trying to understand, to observe time, in trying to understand how we can preserve life energy. At an individual level, you've all heard about acupuncture, Chinese medicine. at a strategy level. I'm sure that you are familiar with The Art of War, written a long time ago. At another physical level, China has been really behind major type of martial arts. So what I'm saying is that in that culture, the goal is not, I dare to say that, success. It's not prosperity. First of all, it is how can my action be servicing life force, whatever the subject I am dealing with, whatever the situation I am. So you could say life force. What does it mean? Life force for a person, it's vitality. It's what you know you're going to be able to do that day that makes you jump out of bed. At the level of a company, it's the ability for the team, for the people to function well together, to bounce back, to be in a yang, dynamic mode. At the level of a country, we can say that the energy of the country is the collective energy of all individuals. So I go back. If time is cyclical, if we accept the idea that certain year brings certain energy, and if the cycle, this is a key for you, if one of the cycle is 60 years, which is within, not for everyone, but which is within the lifespan of a person, we know that when we know the cycle, we are better equipped not to know what will happen. This is not about prediction, but we will be better equipped to know that a certain year, like a certain turbulent year, a certain year capable of shaking the system, like any year of the rat, that was 2020, is coming. So what's important when I said the goal is not success, I may shock you, but I haven't completed my sentence. The goal is success, not at the expense of the individual energy, at a personal level, at a company level, at a neighborhood level, at a country level as well. The strategy is always there. So my purpose today is to say that were we equipped of a way to know what each year brings, because no year will make someone incompetent competent. This would be magical. This would be superstition. This is, and in my work for all these years, trying to decode, to understand those Chinese techniques that are sometimes extremely obscure. And well, I can say, let me be correct as a French person, that there's as much superstition in Chinese tradition than there is in some French tradition. Yeah. But if I simply accept the idea that my success, first of all, is not just the result of my willpower, my force, but also my ability to dance. That's not the right word in your context, you know, but to team with the energy of a year. You know what's going to happen? Because I'm more prepared, I will be able to adjust my position. So I've been giving lectures about the new year I started in 2001, so 20 years of track record. And I have been saying in those public lectures that beware of the year of the metal rat. Why? Because first of all, these names are just metaphor. The rat, one of the 5 Chinese elements heavily used in Chinese medicine as well, is the metaphor of another metaphor. Bear with me 1 minute, which is basically water energy. So a metaphor covering another metaphor. Water energy is this symbolized movement, motion, but in the rat, it's an extremely big wave, just a wave that is there not to destruct, to go at what the obstacles that could prevent an upcoming renewal. Okay, so knowing, I compare my field sometimes like weather. You know, it's almost like a weather. If you know that tomorrow it's going to be snowing, I'm in Massachusetts, or it's going to be raining, I still have the free will, the freedom to go out without an umbrella or in bathing suit, as a matter of fact, although they're going to be snow. So the idea is not that knowledge precedes, preempt what I'm trying to do, but it allows me to not go head on towards an obstacle. 2021, it's coming. I'm going to tell you a few words about this in those cycle. Before that, one reminder, the previous year of the rat, there's different type of year of the rat, was 2008. 12 years before 2020. For those who study economy, who are aware, you will know that it was also a year that surprised our economists because it was the year of the recession, the subprime crisis, and so on. So a lot of people actually did okay in that year. No, it's no year in the Chinese way is considered destructive. It is there to move some lines. So why this technique, the passion for me, is because it's an instrument that is useful to add to the already available strategic tool that we have in the West. Well, second thing, when I meant the objective is not success, I was a little bit strong, but again, no, the Chinese strategy, if you've read The Art of War, is the following. The more I can borrow energy from an outside force. If you need to move and move boxes, you're going to borrow energy from friends, or you're going to hire movers. But here we add another layer. If I had known, I kind of knew, but if we had known that 2020 was that wave that spreads everywhere, that we would have been in some ways, we can't say what we would have done or not, but it would have been useful information to have to strengthen our level of preparedness. In 2020, sorry, question?
I'm very sorry for interrupting, Marie-Pierre. Just to wrap my head around all of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, in essence, as you say, we see time as a cycle, and every bit of time has some sort of energy attached to it.
Yes.
And if we know what that energy is, we can better prepare ourselves for that period of time, which we are calling a year. Is this a more?
Yeah, but
accurate?
it's more, it's perfect. Remember that China has also invented the Chinese puzzles, which is basically the metaphor or something that could get quite complicated. I haven't said that each month carries a certain energy. Each day carries a certain energy. But I don't want to go there because I would just frustrate our audience, because you're going to say, okay, am I every day supposed to call you, for example? So there's another piece that I want to add to the puzzle or to the discussion, is that because we are so rational as Westerners, because we think a lot, sometimes we think really well, but because the modern world has somewhat disconnected us from our gut, from our instinct, from our ability to actually say, this is a really good job, I'm really interesting, but weirdly, whenever I place a phone call, it doesn't go through, or I've started the job and I'll have a backache every weekend and I'm not sure. No, these pieces of information, if we were to say, I'm not going because I don't feel it, we would go head on into social disorganization. So that's not what I'm saying either, but I'm saying that each culture, including your own culture, has the memory of what could be done to center our own energy. But while I was thinking about our talk, I was wondering, there must be in Armenia your own version of martial art. Does it? I'm sure it exists.
There is a version which is similar to wrestling. It's called Koch.
Yeah.
It has its own variations and rules, but yes, it is a way of where young men and women as well, I suppose, were engaged in physical activity, a competition, but also a way of using energy to achieve a purpose.
Okay, so this is not, for me, as a French person, I had to go to China to bring back knowledge that is actually, that belongs to humanity in a way. So yes, the Chinese, they went to be really able to go in very, very detail in order to know those cycles. But the key message is that we owe to our own survival as individuals, and no country can survive if its individuals are not collected in terms of energy. We owe a day-to-day attention to what feeds our life force. It's not just the money. It is not just prestige. It is, and we know it. We know exactly what it is. So I wanted to, some of you might have wondered why we put that Chinese character on the presentation. This Chinese character is, it's okay. So it's on the cover of one of my next books. Thank you for sharing, but let's go back to what I'm showing actually, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I made you some work and then I'm
Sure.
disrupting. So this Chinese character is the equivalent of our Western character. What do you see here? You see a man. Could be a man or a woman. This is a man. This is, the previous one is the character, the Chinese character of a person. Do you see a head? No. But you could see, because I explained a little bit, you could see that it's a person walking. There's movement. What defines life is movement. The ability to, we get hurt, but for life to continue, we have to get up, stand up, and be stable. So you could say, this character, stable, right? I think, therefore I am. I can, therefore I will do. I want, therefore I act. So the Western way is, it has a head, You know, we're really good at mental energy. Don't get me started. Okay, so while the reason I was asking about in your own tradition, some expertise, some skills, some warrior skills actually, that were servicing the country, but that was also used. That's the essence, was not war. In China, it was not war. It was to defend yourself, but it was to center, to learn how to strike the most effectively, to build, to honor the body that carries our soul. So in absence of Marie-Pierre, who's telling you, I'm going to go there, I have still 5 minutes, the keywords for 2021. In absence of that information, we have the responsibility, and this is extremely effective, to reconnect with what I call our internal compass, our ability to, oh, I exaggerate, but that's my goal. I don't think we, as a nation, we far from it right now. To at least be able to bring back our ability to connect to who we are, our ability to know not to make a move or make a move, to balance off or balance out our ability to worry, to ask questions, to doubt. I see in my practice, and I've been doing this for 25 years, I see so many talented young people who are struggling with the affirmation of who they really are, because we all come from cultures, from education, from where we don't have a lot of time to actually truly reconnect, not reconnect, but we have to reconnect. But when we grow up, to connect with this, with who we are at a soul level. We can come back to that, but it's the other striking difference is that if you know physics and math, that was some of my specialty before, the center of gravity is higher in the Western character because it goes, the energy goes to the head. And if my head thinks too much, I may not see an obstacle soon enough. The other character is the idea that we have to trace our path and not be bogged down. I don't want to go too far, not be bogged down by the restriction that were imposed on us in our education. We have to go back to the talents we were born with, and don't let the expectation of a boss to actually break our back. 2021, I told you the metal ox. Ox is a metaphor. Behind this metaphor, you have the image. Please, I don't know if you're going to close your eyes, but imagine a mountain, a solid mountain. Last year, we had the image of a tsunami. This year, it is proposed, associated with the energy of next year, we have the image of a solid mountain that contains water and metal energy. These are Chinese metaphor. To make it simple, it's a fertile energy, solid. Mountain is the metaphor of global, togetherness, collectiveness. And hidden in that mountain, we have metal. Metal, in the Chinese way, is the metaphor of what? Like, this could be the sword. But the main metaphor is justice, the ability to separate what's right from wrong, what's fair from what's unfair. And in this special year that is coming, which is one of the most stable, meaning, I come back to that. It means that this is a year that will benefit those that have talent in them to extract. The metal is also the metaphor of expertise. So one could say, I'm not joking actually, that next year is not a good year for those who continue to consume and produce the all made in China. Next year will favor those who have in them an aim at quality, at actions that are not just for themselves, this idea of collectiveness. Long-term results are favored by the year to come. Remember I said, no year will make someone incompetent competent. And then I stopped.
And I'm sorry for interrupting. When you say year to come,
2021, yes, you're right. Okay. For those who think that 2021 is not up to a good start, I hear that a lot. I have to remind you or tell you that Chinese way, the year only starts at the beginning of February. So what we see today, Why? Oh, why? That's how many hours do you have? But why? Because I'll make it simple. Let me just finish on the fact that, so we in the last months of the Chinese year 2020, at a time where the force, what the year has tried to do is to move things around, so to plan for change. One could say, I see it in business a lot, some obsolete way to do business have been really challenged last year. So now this is a critical time where the force that don't want to retreat are resisting, while the force of the new year is not here. Now, why is it the Chinese New Year, beginning of February? Because it's the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. The Chinese calendar, contrary, yours is better than the Western way, but the Western calendar starts January 1st, which is based on the decision of one guy at some point, if you go back to history. While the Chinese calendar, Julius, the calendar, while the Chinese calendar remains strictly connected to the movement of the earth and the sun, right? So that's why it's that moment.
And that is fascinating. But just to do justice, I believe the Gregorian calendar from the Middle Ages was the device of a group of smart men, monks, and in fact, to solve an astronomical problem in a few extra seconds when
Absolutely.
the Earth revolved around the sun. But this is all very
to get back to that, the main difference between what I would call the Western way, let's call January 1st, which I don't follow anymore, it's been many years, and the Chinese way is that for them, the new year, beginning of February, they call it the beginning of spring. The spring is usually 21st of March, right? And here we kind of agree on this in the West. For them, spring, what they're looking for is actually the early sign of spring. We declare it's spring when it's spring, when it's green out. In medicine, they're interested in the early symptom, not the time where the disease is already there, right? So in strategy, to know the energy that is coming of next year in advance is also a way to prepare better, because when it's early on, you can position yourself. In the West, we need to see to believe. So if it's green out there and there's bird, it's the spring. The Chinese way, it's okay, it's already there. Actually, November, which is the beginning of the winter time, is for them a month where the wood energy growth is there. If you look in November, the birds are already there. I don't want to go into too much technical.
No, the reason why this is all very fascinating for me is, as you rightly mentioned, Marie-Pierre, we come from a Western or westernized culture. And we mean Western in a very geographical and also cultural sense. And this is all very new because, as you say, we're rational thinkers. And when someone says it's the year of the metal ox, the attorney in me thinks, well, that's kind of superstitious. But what I'm interested in knowing more is, you mentioned that time holds energy. Where does this energy come from, and how is it devised that one year is the year of this energy?
Okay, is the air you breathing energy?
It holds energy.
Okay.
It would be
okay.
matter.
So how do you define life force? How do you define life force? Okay. Then this, and your question is extremely relevant because, again, if you compare Chinese medicine and acupuncture with Western medicine, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, the best times when actually those doctors can work together. And this is a key information in 2021. There's really this indication that it's about time that we work together instead of continuing to be on one single track. So if you look closely at Chinese medicine, you're going to have acupuncturists who are going to put real needles on invisible meridians, right?
Yes.
Right? Okay. You can have, and this, I'm not making this up, you can have people going under anesthesia in an operating room put under anesthesia in sleep with just the needles. But the meridian don't exist, right? So it's superstition.
They're invisible.
Okay, so what I like about the Chinese technique, and that's initially, it was one of my reason I love America at the time, was that from a French person, we debate a lot. In America, I felt we act, the proof is in the pudding. What I actually discovered moving further in those Chinese techniques, and again, there's a whole array of technique, is that we are not gonna debate for hours about is it working or is not working. Is it like so I don't know if there's some of my clients in the audience, you could say 2008, bad economical year, 12 years later, 2020, bad world year, coincidence, right? Coincidence, no? One could say that my work is about creating coincidence. I don't care if people think, oh, it's a coincidence that actually that project that has been flunking for 3 years now launches, or that building that we couldn't sold for so many now because suddenly we have the right time, suddenly, le hasard, coincidence, something moved, right? So the challenge that we have Westerners is to understand what chi, life energy is. Because, energy, we need to have energy. Energy is not just my ability to speak with a loud voice. My energy is what nourishing my soul, what makes me go through obstacles. I'm not really answering, but what I'm saying is that the lawyer in you, often people come to these techniques after an accident, after a life event that made that, and to me, it somewhat hurts me, because once we've tried all what our force and reason can do, we might be open to looking at Chinese medicine, acupuncture, right? So if we get bogged down to, no, I'm just going to retreat. The only thing I'm trying to do today,
just to throw it in, to all our attendees, you are welcome to ask questions because we're entering the Q&A phase. Use the Q&A box at the bottom to ask your questions. And Marie-Pierre, I'm sorry for interrupting. Please continue.
No, I'm waiting for your questions. So there is, remember when I said I don't want to convince? Don't want to convince. Actually, when, you mentioned earlier, one day I was told by a Western doctor, Madame, put your papers, I'm going to be emotional, put your papers in order. You have 3 months to live. I mean, this is a true story. Jacqueline was, Jacqueline was there at the time, right? And I'm over 60, so and the Chinese techniques had been a passion for me since I was 17 years old. But as a Westerner, I didn't do my studies to actually go to something that people would consider unorthodox, right? And but I remember going to see an older Chinese man who was one of my teachers, and he said, yeah, death of something, you have to change, right? So to your point, I had a scientifically Western trained doctor who made a prediction, 3 months to live, right? I think we're in the same dimension right now. No, we're not in the same place, but I'm still here, right? So this is a great point, like the Chinese strategy is really about understanding that obstacles and tough moments are what they are, obstacles and tough moments, but they are to be looked at. Sorry for saying this, I know how hard it could be to hear. They are to be looked at opportunity to reposition. So what I'm bringing about time is a little bit heads up about not, first of all, stop agitating about thinking that 2021 will be as horrible as last year. No, we're going towards stable energy. So what I could do, let's talk in 1 year and we bounce back. Because at some point you have to consider, what I would like to do is that stop feeling guilty, you guys, about what you have not achieved yet. You know what? Because I see so many Westerners who push so much and they don't do it and it's not working. And then they feel guilty. Feel guilty because what? Because if we don't succeed, the only reason in the West is what? You're incompetent, you haven't done the right thing. But just ask yourself, what if I did everything right? Okay. But the timing was not there yet. It changes your perspective.
True.
So next time you hit a roadblock, don't obsess, but try to cool off as much as you can. But what if this obstacle is actually a message that be sent to you? And I'm actually going to even put that in the pot today, by your ancestors, by the universe. I mean, you might have read Jung, also all the work that Carl Gustav Jung did on the phenomenon of synchronicity. What if, the way for 300 years we've looked at the world is not the only way? What have we done with our instinct, with our ability to read sign, with the loyalty we should have to who we are first? What have we done with it? I don't know. Huh? So my point is that I don't want to continue talking. I want questions.
And we have questions coming in. And
Okay.
thank you, Marie-Pierre, for this all-encompassing overview of this Chinese philosophy that is very much new to me. And we have.
I don't see the people. I don't know if they look horrified or not.
It's because of the webinar function that we had to use for the interpretation. But I want to ask a question by one of our attendees who is asking for if I may, a clear explanation of how to borrow energy from time. Because when we presented this talk, the question was, energy can be borrowed from time, and that's
okay. So the idea is that, for example, this year is imagine the year like a friend or a cousin that comes to live with you for a year, right? So some cousin and some year are not as friendly as others. So here now we have a year that in his texture, if I try to remember the fertile mountain, and this is the time has come for those who are competent and courageous enough to bring their talent to light, right? So if in the audience you have, so that's what it is it's basically if the energy, the year matches the project you're trying to launch, then you don't have to spend as much of your own energy to launch your project. So for example, last year was a great year that gave a lot of energy to those whose business is to make vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
because the energy was a wave that goes everywhere. So if you have a tiny project, a tiny idea that is just for a small group, you could do it. You could have done it also in 2020, but you would have, because you could not borrow energy from the time, align yourself with the time, you had to use up more of your own energy. So because the goal is longevity, to live the longest possible in the best possible shape, the more I can do a product launch when the energy is young and thinking when the energy is yin, the more I save my own energy. I hope it answers.
And to make sure, it's essentially the year is offering its energy to the human.
Yeah, and so in the Chinese way, they find very silly, for example, when we are trying to, I'm going to take an example. Every single month of September carries the metal energy. That is every year. Metal allows to see clearly, So if you have decision to make this summer, and you find this year that it's like in the summer that it takes too long and so on, borrowing energy from time is to hold on the decision in August and put that question back on the table in September. I'm simplifying.
Where the energy is more overflowing, if I may, more conducive to that project. Is that correct?
Exactly. So when you're hiring people, in your work and moving forward, you will spend a lot of time matching people in a team. What I do, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. It's not only for success to happen, you need to have a person that has you need the energy of the project to be matched with the energy of the people who will do it. But what I'm doing, I'm just adding a layer, which is the time. Some months are more helpful than others. In absence of that knowledge, we just have our instinct. Oh, I tried to launch 3 times, bad response. It's not. It doesn't need to be because you're incompetent. You're just too early or too late. What I bring is the when. And my work has been used, to give you a precise example. One of my specialty is in fertility treatment, working with a medical team in Paris, which is totally crazy normally. You, the lawyer, then the doctor, because if you are in a long process of infertility treatment, medication is being used to stimulate the process. So it doesn't make a difference if it's, in some ways, if it's September or October in the Western world. But because September or October will be a better or not match to the energy these people are trying to harness, which is procreation, creation, doing it in a month on a day that is most aligned brings chi, brings effectiveness. So I've done that for, the number of, I don't even count the notice of birth for couples who have been told by our Western effective, great medical work, forget it.
And we have more questions coming in, so I want to give as much opportunity as possible to the participants. It's more clear for me now how to borrow energy from time, but coming again to energy, where does this energy come from, and how do you measure it? Is there a way of quantifying
How do you
it?
measure it? Okay, good question. How do you measure it? Think about your level of, I know you want to see the source. So the answer is the universe. Where do you come from?
Because the laws of physics say that energy is not created and is not demolished. It just changes shape from one form to another. So this energy of the time, of the piece of time, the month, the year, where does it come from? And how do you?
So I can't answer that question. I can tell you that what I propose is based on 3,000, 4,000 years of studying the cycle. We actually do know, for example, that I could ask you the question, Stefan, you know, in the spring, where does the spring energy come from?
The sun, because the earth is tilted towards the sun.
Okay. So behind this, the scholars who were behind those techniques were mathematicians, astronomers. They knew the course of the suns. So the whole Chinese way, those techniques, they try to connect us more to the energy around us because we are a piece of that. So my take is always, in absence of that, the proof is in the pudding. If you can, at your level, at my level, identify the moments in the day where you are more productive. Currently, with confinement, when people are confined, you know, we could work morning or evening, unless we have to have meetings like this. Huh? So, but does our culture tell us, yes, Marie-Pierre, you do much better when you get up early. Go to start working at 5 a.m. in the company. No, there's no room in our rigid mind to actually allow us to borrow energy from time. So if you know, and this is something I can't tell you, you will know, or our audience, that working late, you produce better. It's not, why? Because at that time, the evenings give you energy. It's not just your own energy. So what I'm asking you is that identify every day in the next week, the people, the moment, the places that are giving you energy, maximize it. Identify every day the people, the moment, the places that drain your energy. And then report back in a month. No, then you don't need to report, just act on it. This is borrowing energy from time.
That's a very practical tip, and it actually responded to one of our other questions of how do you catch the right time for oneself for doing something. And it's essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, you do it through observation of when
to connect, observation, to connect, reconnection with your instinct. So if you know, there are tools that will allow me to tell you, you better off writing a book now instead of continuing to obsess as in a legal field, for example. But there's not been a single time where the person did not confirm what I was telling them, because we know it. The thing is that we don't, it's almost like we all have an engine and it's not turned on. So any meditation practice, some of you I know, you've heard about Zen practice, about meditation practice. My background is more Taoism, any technique, but it could be looking at nature. It could be in a little chapel in a church somewhere. Any of those techniques allow you to get back. You don't see me, I'm touching my tummy here. Huh? Allow us to calm down the energy that is stuck in the head. The problem, there's another problem in the West, is that we're not patient. No, because we've been told we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. I mean, don't get me started. Or the problem, the consequences of knowing time is that once I know it and I continue to obsess trying to write a report from 10 to 5, while I know that I do better off early in the morning or late in the evening, then something is wrong with us. So we have, and so, but if I'm told that, oh, your product, even with some couples, wait, the having to wait because we've been for the right time, for the inspiration, for the right contact. You can go to all your LinkedIn contact and not yet have found the right person who may come because you agree to follow what your instincts tell you, which is maybe to go back to a place that you love in Armenia. This is where you might actually find the contact, not because the person is in Armenia, because this is there that you will get the email. So as Westerners, we don't integrate those forces, so we rely too much on our mind. We're not patient, and we want, I remember journalists who said, okay, we understand what you do with space, so we want pictures of before and after. I told them, go, I gave them the name of competitors, because it's like if you ask an acupuncturist to see a picture before and after. So you could see where I put the needles or after. What matters before and after, the difference is subtle. It's the different level of energy. And that's what counts. And this I can't describe.
We have
One question.
And I'm sorry for interrupting. Yes, a few more minutes left till the end of our webinar. First of all, I would like to ask you to tell people how they can be in touch with you, because we have a lot of questions coming in. So please share that. And also a question I was saving for your closing remarks. It has been a particularly difficult, painful year for Armenians, given especially the war that we experienced a few months ago, and which seems to be igniting any moment. We don't know. What will be your advice as someone who studies ancestral Chinese strategy to our nation, to my kinsmen and kinsmen, of how to handle the situation given the energy of this year?
Okay, so to contact me, you Google my name, you'll have my website, there's an email, and usually I answer, so therefore sometimes I can't answer right away, but I do answer. So I cherish your question. Second, in time of great pain and sorrow, the advice is not to agitate, but you do know that. It's always to withdraw, but to withdraw to go back to the core of who we are. Because a country like Armenia that has such a history, such a track record, that has shown so much resilience, that also has gone through so much pain, has to remember its core energy. Because when we hurt, the mistake is to want to bounce back too quickly, or to attack back, which would actually drain further the forces. So my take is that when there's great pain, the Chinese way is to reach out for ancestors. How is it going to help me then in political science, ancestors? It's to realign with the clear, bright crystal of your soul. And if we do that individually, although it may look silly and not rational, this will, it's almost like you will borrow force from what could say a lineage, but the DNA of your ancestors, you have it. You've been, this is the strength, the resiliency, the brilliancy, the greatness of that nation. Even at time where we feel that we down, we carry it. So my take is to accept a time of mourning for sure, but also to never conclude that it's the end. I'm going to be moved as long as there is life. And that's why the key thing is life energy. the last thing for me, how do you measure life energy is like, as long as you don't access to the emotion of joy, you know, and when we are in mourning, it takes a long time to get back to joyful. But joy, when joy comes back, because maybe there's just a bird that came in front of your window, this is the time, the moment of spring. And at a human, at a nation level, joy is, which is, has nothing to do with war, right? But joy is the sign that the, you know, the feed is going back to the tree. But a nation cannot achieve this if individually we take shortcut with our own personal energy. So stop shortcutting yourself. Stop thinking, you know, don't concentrate on weakness. Concentrate on what has made you great, because it's still there. It's like the little flame that is at the end of a church. You know, it's still there. As long as you have a flame, it can grow again. I didn't want to go any political way, but maybe, anyway, it's my message to you. You know, because the world will need to change. You could say, everybody said that before, but we are, in terms of the Chinese reading, we are at a time where there's really retrograde, backward forces, and a new rebirth that wants to come, but it cannot come in a body that is not healthy. Body mean also the metaphor of a nation. Don't underestimate what you eat. It has an impact on your moral too. I'm too long. I stop.
No, this was, first of all, thank you for your remark. I'm sorry?
No, nothing.
My connection seemed to get chopped up a bit, but I got your last words, and this has been fascinating, Marie-Pierre. First of all, thank you very much for your time and all the positive energy that you are sending us all around the world from Massachusetts, where you are currently. We would love to stay in touch. Powerspaces.com, dear ladies and gentlemen, is the personal website of Marie-Pierre. Please do feel free to reach out to her with your questions, requests, if I may be inviting them to do so, Marie-Pierre, on your behalf.
Yeah.
And again, to all our attendees, thank you for joining us.
If I have a lot of questions, I could answer them, and if people are okay, share them back with you so it can benefit the group. Okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Those who would like to stay in touch with, please go to huysfoundation.org, sign up, and if you would like to stay in touch in terms of today's topic, write to us at info@huysfoundation.org, and we'll forward you the responses that will be kindly provided by Marie-Pierre. Marie-Pierre, on behalf of the Huys team and the attendees today, thank you so very much for exposing us and helping us explore the Chinese ancestral strategy of time and energy. I'm sure that all of us took something from this presentation, this webinar, for us to use in our personal lives, in our professional lives. Thank you so much once again, and wishing everyone a healthy, a peaceful, and a beneficial year to come from February 1, according to the Chinese calendar. Have a great day, everyone.
Last word, don't give up.
Please.
Bye.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye. Merci.